Hey guys, so as you know, this is our recovery video from my doe in Green Swamp, and I wanted to give you a little backstory as to why it is just a recovery video and there's no footage leading up to me actually killing my doe. So, Sunday morning, Jared got up at about 3:15 and started to load his bike up into the truck, and I wanted to snooze the alarm a couple more times. It had been my Thanksgiving break and I had been really busy all break, and I knew I had to be back to work on Monday. And so I wanted to sleep in a little bit, but then I remembered our fiasco we had for leaving for Green Swamp Thanksgiving morning, and I decided to get up on time. So Thanksgiving morning, we got up, we got ready, and we left, and we really needed to leave by 4:30, and somehow it was just 4:45 before we got on the road. So by the time we got up to Green Swamp, we knew we were running a little bit late, and the sun would probably be breaking by the time we got climbed up into our stands, but we weren't too worried about it. So once we get to the check station in Green Swamp, it's about a 1.5 mile drive. Hang our first left and we hang our next right, and everything's going good. And we're making okay time, and I know that doesn't seem very far, but when you've got to go about 20-25 miles per hour in Green Swamp just to get back there safely, it's a pretty long drive. It should normally take us about 35 minutes to get from the check station to our parking spot. I realized that we had been driving for a while, and it was pretty foggy that morning. We had passed at least 2 trucks, but we weren't worried about it because we had come this way so many times that we were sure we would realize when we had come to our parking spot. And finally, we came to the end of this long, foggy road where we run into this wall of trees, and you either have to park at our parking spot or you have to hang a right, and you would know if you hung a right. Incredibly bumpy ride. And so we get to this dead end and we hang our left to the parking spot. Jared realized before I did that we started to go around another curve in the road, and we should have dead-ended at know that this is our parking spot. Jared realizes we're back on the main grade, and so we turn around and we somehow have managed to pass our parking spot and come an additional 20 minutes past where we needed to stop, and we have to turn around and proceed to drive 20 minutes back to where our parking spot should have been. By the time we get to our stands and get up, it is going to be after sunrise. But we load up the bike and we head to the back and we get into our trees, and we both had a good sit. We saw turkey, but we didn't see deer, and we pulled out and went to Thanksgiving dinner. So now back to present day Sunday. We get on the road this time at 4:15. We are not going to miss any turns. We pull up Onyx maps when we get there, and we make sure that we get to our parking spot. I didn't see anything Sunday morning, and Jared saw 9. And I had been sitting kind of close up in the front to our parking spot. We call our front spot because I popped a tire the very last day in Mississippi, and I haven't replaced my inner tubes yet. And so Jared's sitting in what we call our back spot and saw 9 deer that morning. And I was about ready to be done with Green Swamp. I was tired of walking through thigh-high, deep, wet ditches and seeing alligators on the side of the road and walking through knee-high cypress bay heads to try and get to these swamps. And I had probably sat at least 4 or 5 sits by myself this season and 3 or 4 sits with Jared this season, and that same amount last year by myself as well, and I was just done. That morning, Jared's coming out and he passes a friend and he recommends a spot that we'd not been back to, and let's try it. So we ride back there, and because my tire was popped, I'm riding on the deer cart, and I've got my bow on the shins of my legs, and I've got Jared's recurve across my lap, and we get all the way back there, again, about another mile and a half to park the bike and hike into our spot, which is going to be about 150 yards off the road. And Jared realizes that my sight somewhere along the ride has rattled apart. This is the piece that you need to actually kill an animal. And somehow the pin had fallen out, the gasket had fallen out, and we managed to find the pin and the piece to screw it all back together, but not the gasket to keep it from coming loose. So Jared MacGyver's using a tall piece of grass, this fake gasket, if you will, to keep my pin from moving around. And so we get in, And I get climbed up, and these cypress heads in there, the tree he'd recommended was too big for my lone wolf at the base. The rest of the trees were all really, really small, and if I climbed even 15 feet, my stand pointing down at the ground. So I climbed down to about, I maybe wasn't 10 or 12 feet off the ground. And then finally, at 4:45, this doe appeared in this thick stuff off to my left, and she comes in to the left. I get drawn back on her, and quickly I realize I don't know how far she is. She has to be at least 30 to 35 yards, and that was farther than I felt comfortable shooting with my sight being broken. And so I let down, and she makes it to another window, and I draw back again, and finally she pops out of the thick stuff where I had ranged the farthest spot to about 23 yards, and she was closer than that, so I guessed it to be anywhere between 18 and 20 yards, and I set the pin right behind her shoulder. And finally, all the hard work that we have been putting in at Green Swamp finally paid off. So here is the recovery video of my doe from Green Swamp.
All right, so the reason I have my headlamp on is because we were out here last day of archery here in Green Swamp, east side, that's the public side. Brittany comes running up to my stand about 10 minutes ago. Almost got shot because she sounded like big old buck. But anyway, she runs in, kind of know why she would be running into my stand, and grabbed our headlamps real quick, and we're going to go start our track. She got herself a fantastic doe, but let's recover. So Brittany just ran me back here to where she found some blood. The doe actually ran the direction that we walked in at, and shooting a 1-inch broadhead fixed blade on a tiny arrow at 40 something pounds, upper 40s, 24-inch draw. Show me some blood.
Just a little bit.
Oh, we don't even need that light. Give me a hand comparison on that.
Oh, there you go.
The thing is pouring. So just to reiterate, it's all about shot placement and not size of the cut. I shoot a giant broadhead, and she just bested both my blood trails for this season.
She went that way.
I think she went that way. Stand by.
Yeah, this way.
This grass is pretty tall, if you can't tell. Good blood. Kind of hard to navigate
Got blood here.
through this thick stuff.
I'm looking for next blood.
But we're about
There.
10 yards off the trail right now. So probably about 80, 100 yards from Brittany's stand.
Really good blood right here. There. There's my world's smallest doe. I found her. We found her!
Well, she didn't go far after she come off that trail. Why don't we pull her out of this thick stuff?
Yeah. No wonder I couldn't find next blood. We were
Yeah.
literally standing on
That
her.
is next blood.
Oops, sorry, I stepped on my foot.